I have a marketing planning recommendation for you. Specifically, this is talking about the timing of your technical work. So setting up your shopping cart, putting together your opt-in page, hooking up to your autoresponder, all those different technical elements that are important anytime you do any kind of online launch or online marketing. So I have this bad habit in my life, which is I am really good at doing most things at the last minute. I've been perfecting this for a number of years, and perhaps you have this same bad habit. Well, you know what? When it comes, it's not a good idea in so many things. And my wife has done a really good job of helping me to understand that. But one of the places where this is not a good idea is in the area of marketing technology, all those things that I mentioned that are so many important. So here's the thing. If you've been in online marketing for a while, how many times have you found yourself sweating to try to get tech going because it's moments before it has to work? I have literally in the past had times where I was going live on a webinar to sell something, and 2 minutes before the webinar starts, I'm turning on the shopping cart so that I can sell that thing. And it's like, I have had so many times where by the skin of my teeth, I managed to get that technology done that last moment. And I learned the lesson, which is not to do that. So here's my goal. I'm going to share 2 goals with you, very specific goals that I think will be valuable to you that I have learned. So when I am running a webinar, my goal is to have all the tech elements done 7 days before I start registration for that webinar. Okay, 7 days before I want to, and this is before it starts, not before the webinar itself. It's before the webinar registration starts. So here's what I want to have done 7 days in advance. I'm just going to give you this quick run through because I'm showing you this because it helps you to realize how much tech there really is involved in this. And until you've sat down and mapped it all out, you don't understand that. That's the reason why oftentimes you're literally doing it like that moment before, because you just didn't realize there was so much to do. So the webinar registration form has to be created. It needs to connect into my broadcast tech. So whatever tool that I'm using, when somebody signs up for that webinar, they have to get signed up for that webinar's actually within that tool, because I never use the actual sign up form that the webinar services use. They always underperform doing it myself and then hooking that to that service. All right. And then at the same time that I'm doing that, I also have to take that name and put it into my email autoresponder. So that connection's got to get made, as well as the email autoresponder has to get built and all set up. I got to create the sales page. I got to create the shopping cart for it. I've got to do that for any upsells that are involved. I've got to do the thank you emails. I've got to integrate it all with whatever the product delivery is for whatever product I'm selling them. I also have to set up all the replays. Card just dropped. You're not going to get what was ever on that card. And any kind of text reminders, all of these things, that's what the et cetera is for. All of these things are important technological elements of your launch that have all got to get done before you do this webinar. Why not do it in advance? We'll come back to that. And by the way, when I say done, I mean it's actually done and it's been fully tested, not only by me and my staff, but by some people who are outside of our realm. So they're outside of our domains, outside of our IP addresses and things like that, to make sure it actually works. So now I'm going to give you another example, a launch. So when you're doing a launch, if you thought the number of things that have to be done for a webinar is lots, wait till you do a launch. A launch at least doubles that number, if not triples that number. And so my goal on a launch is to have all the tech done and tested. You're going to die when you see this. 30 days before the launch begins. Why the gap? 7 days before a webinar, 30 days before a launch? Because here's what happens when you do this. The tech is the least important part in terms of actually making the sale. It's vital, but the tech is something that you can literally cross off something on the list and it's done. And so what this does is when you get the tech done that far in advance, you get the advantages of being able to focus on the important part of the webinar, the launch, whatever it is, which is the marketing and selling of that thing. Again, as I said, the tech is just checking a box. It's something that's got to happen. But a great tech job is not going to help nearly as much as a great marketing and selling job. And so what I want is I want to be able to take that off the list well before so that I can focus on the stuff that makes the difference on the bottom line. Okay? Plus, in addition to that, you have less stress in this process. And as a result of all this, you get more sales. Because you focused on the part that mattered as opposed to not being able to even think about that stuff because you got to get the tech to work. And so what we're doing is we're putting first things first. We're putting the importance of marketing and sales above the importance of getting it done. Now, the key to this is that the amount of work to do the tech is exactly the same, whether you do it 30 days in advance, 45 days in advance, or 1 day in advance. The work is the same, but you don't have the stress. The stress of, I've got to get it done. Because if something goes wrong, and I guarantee you, if you're doing something in a launch size level, something will go wrong with your tech. This is going to take some research. It's going to take calling technical support. If you're doing it like at 11 p.m. the night before something launches at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day, you haven't got somebody you can call, all kinds of risk by not doing it in advance. And so that you are able then to focus on what matters. So when I said, what's the difference between why is 7 days for a webinar and 30 days for a launch? Webinars are a lot less complex. There's fewer elements in a webinar. And so I'd like to have it done 30 days in advance, but 7 days gives me enough time to focus on the less complexity of the webinar versus a launch. I need all 30 days to focus on the launch, marketing, and sales to be able to really nail that launch. Okay. So that's the reason why 7 days for a webinar, 30 days for a launch. And by the way, this works for an e-commerce launch. It works for any kind of thing you're doing that involves technology and the online world. Now I'm going to give you a bonus hint. Here, you're getting extra. For every cent that you paid to get this, you're getting extra. May I suggest that in addition to getting all the tech done in advance, you also get your slides and marketing content done in advance. My recommendation is that you hire a proofreader to go through and look at everything that you do. Ideally, this proofreader is not just a proofreader making sure that you got the right words and spelling and stuff like that. But if you can have a design reader also to say, hey, you got 5 slides here with just text on them. You should put a picture in there, and start looking at a bigger picture at making your presentations work better. Ideally, you have your copy all to the proofreader at least 72 hours before. I'm not saying just copy your finished slides to the proofreader at least 72 hours before. That allows them 24 hours to get it done, meaning it's all done 48 hours in advance. Now, you'll probably, in your last run through, make a couple of changes, but you've gotten the bulk of the work done well before then. What this allows you to do, this bonus tip, is allows you to focus on your performance as opposed to your communication. Again, putting first things first. Your performance is going to sell a lot more than what actually gets communicated. Can you do this? It's not that hard. Literally. And I know some of you are saying, there's no way I can do that. Well, yeah, you can. Again, it's the same amount of work. You're just doing it earlier rather than later because you got to do all those pieces. Think about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.